Welcome to the Shot Clock, everybody. I've been wanting to make this joke, even though it's a terrible joke for way too long. Ben is in the middle of a Reuben sandwich. Dave Rubin, Ben Mankiewicz, Jason Rubin. Had to. Slow clap. Well deserved. Paul George, PG-13, a top 10 player in the NBA before his injury, his brutal, his graphic injury. We'll show some pictures, so be warned.
Nobody
they are
wants
coming.
to see this.
But they do remember him. And Paul George, 9 months later, since that injury, he is going to be able to come back in March if doctors clear him and he is mentally ready too. Is this a good move by the Pacers, or should the Pacers play Paul George and potentially make a playoff push for the 8th seed in the East? Or do we sit Paul George out, give him a full offseason, and start anew in 2016?
Can I field this one first?
Dave.
Because it's a very obvious answer.
Yeah.
He should not play this season. There is no doubt he should not play. I'm not a fan usually of guys sitting out extra time. We're going to talk about the Carmelo situation in a second. This guy had such a horrific injury. This team is not going anywhere this year. We've seen a rash of guys with a lot of mileage. Not that Paul George has that much mileage, but we've seen a lot of guys between Kobe and Derrick Rose come back from things a little too early. Then they hurt other things. You know, you put pressure. If one leg's hurt, you put pressure on the other knee. All of that stuff. It makes no sense. You're not doing anything this year. Let this guy's body, you know, between Olympics, All-Star games, long playoff runs, let his body.
Franchise player.
Yeah, you let him rest. It would be different if there was a chance, if there was a real chance. I could see you doing it. Otherwise, I see no way that you do it. Come on, what do you
There's
got?
something on your mind.
When do I get to say, Dave, you're an idiot? At what point?
Because I was.
Can I do it now?
You can do it now because I'm in agreement with it. But yes, go.
Really?
You can take
Really?
it.
Yeah.
You play
What
them.
are
I
you
want
talking about?
longevity of a career. I want a franchise to
Don't pick and choose the
look at Derrick
references.
Rose. Look at Derrick Rose.
You're picking and choosing.
Yeah.
Most guys come back from injury. They come back from injury. We are presuming that the doctors say your broken leg is healed.
But that's what they said to Derrick Rose. That's what they said to Kobe.
By the way, Derrick Rose, yeah, he may have a chronic injury that he can't get past. But I mean, Derrick Rose took a lot of time. I don't think Derrick Rose rushed back. No one's going to accuse Derrick Rose of
he missed 8 seasons, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Derrick Rose is 37 years old.
Yeah, and Kobe was a very old guy in trying to come back from these injuries, and Kobe broke down after many years. Kobe also played through a ton of injuries for years. So, if the doctors say it's healed, then I think it's critical that he comes back. One, you could make the playoffs this year.
Yes.
And if you make the playoffs and you have all of a sudden what they didn't have at the beginning of the year, and you have a healthy Paul George and a healthy George Hill and a healthy John Smith and a healthy Phil Jones and all the other guys.
You're just naming people that signed the Constitution.
Just making up names of guys with the Buffalo Bills and the Indiana Pacers have the worst named athletes in the history of sports. But nonetheless, so if George and Hill and George Hill and Paul George are, but if those guys are playing, right?
Yeah.
And Hibbert's healthy.
Is Tate George?
Tate George.
Tate George. Remember Tate George? That's a little before your time.
I hit that
my
shot to beat Clemson.
Yep.
If those you can look, are the Hawks invincible if you get in the 8th? First of all, you get the 7th seed. So look, you'll probably lose in the first round, but I think it's important that he comes back. And I think Larry Bird said it, and I'm not going to argue with Larry Bird's competitiveness. Coming back this year, playing 15 games at the end of the year and maybe a playoff series this year saves you from an offseason of wondering.
Right.
What if?
Am I going to be able to come back?
Okay, so that I'll concede you that.
You gotta play
that at least, so that way
minutes.
next season you're not starting those 20 games going, can I play or not? So I'll go that far. I just think this thing was so. Maybe I just can't get that image out of my head. It was so horrific.
But the gruesomeness doesn't matter.
Well, it was no Kevin Ware. Let's be real here.
I mean, that one is off the charts.
Right.
I watched that one once and refused to watch it.
This is not discrediting Paul George's injury. You play him some limited minutes to start. At the bare minimum, you throw him in 15 minutes a game. Don't throw him into a 40-minute situation.
Hey,
but
what are we talking about? These are
No, but if you
professionals.
get- yeah,
They'll
that-
handle
at
it.
that
It's up
point,
to
then-
them. It's up to them. If the doctors say yes and he can play, then he can play. And if he goes and his leg is sore, then they of course have to. Rick Carlisle and Bird have to recognize. Oh yeah, he's taking 2 games off. You know.
Speaking of which,
about-
you hurt your calf, shin?
By the way, I just said Rick Carlisle, who's now the coach of the.
not the Phoenix Suns.
Is Carlisle coach of the Mavericks?
He's the coach of the Mavericks.
Right.
Mavericks
I still think he's the Pacers coach to me.
No, he's something like he's one of the top 2 or 3 longest tenured coaches.
I know.
At this point.
You mean Rick Fitzsimmons?
I mean Rick Fitzsimmons. That's right. That's exactly right. Frank, what's the Pacers coach name?
Frank Vogel.
Frank Vogel.
Yeah.
Frank Vogel. Even the coach has a terrible name.
Frank Vogel's a young. Forget it. Go.
All right, guys, what do you think? Do you think Paul George should come back and play this year? The answer is yes. Or are you going to agree with Dave Rubin?
Carlisle, Frank.
See. But and also, do the Pacers make the playoffs with Paul George?
Oh, let's jump in there real quick. If Paul George comes back and plays, then Rick Vogel, then Frank Vogel will lead that team to the playoffs. That team will will get past Brooklyn and who's ever in the 8th seed right now.
At the
Miami.
outro, you got to do it at the outro.
Yes, I have to do it at the outro.
Right before the
You asked another question.
We're ending on an
I'm
emphatic
asking the
point.
viewers.
Will they? Here, I'll give you your answer. If he comes back and plays, they make the playoffs, and they make it an interesting first-round series. Whether they're playing the Wizards, the Raptors, the Hawks, or the Heat, or the Cavaliers, not the Heat, or the Cavaliers in the first round, they'll make it interesting.
Well, you can follow Ben Fitzsimmons on Twitter at Ben Fitzsimmons. But again, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave all your comments in the comments section.
One other thing.
I'm gonna fucking kill him.